The DNA test results came back, and it turns out I am not your biological son. I am not the kidnapped baby that you had stolen from your arms on April 27, 1964.
The gut-wrenching letter sent by Paul Fronczak to the loving couple that have been his parents for more than 40 years was not well received. Dora and Chester Fronczak were stunned. The father was angry, but Paul hoped they would digest the shocking news and change their minds. They did.
I wanted to call them every day, but I didn't. I wanted them to, settle a little bit, and then I finally called. And it was a great conversation.
The Fronczaks agreed to do whatever they can to help Paul figure out who he is, so long as they don't have to talk to any reporters. They got their fill of paparazzi back in the 60s when their story became an international sensation. A woman walked into a Chicago hospital dressed as a nurse and walked out with their newborn baby. Police and FBI launched a nationwide search for the baby and the kidnapper. Thousands of suspects were investigated. Thousands of babies were examined. The Fronczaks were heartbroken. More than a year later, in Newark, New Jersey, an infant was found abandoned outside a store. The FBI began a series of tests on the boy, who was given the name Scott McKinley by child welfare officials. After a year of being moved around within the foster care system, Scott was adopted by the Fronczaks, who believed he was their missing son. They were great parents, Paul says, and he grew up in a wonderful family, but always felt something was amiss.
All right, you ready, Em? I'm going to do this.
These days, Paul lives in Henderson with his own family, but the unanswered questions still rattle around in his head. So a few months ago, almost as a lark, he talked his visiting parents into giving a few swabs for a home DNA test and sent off for the results. The test confirmed he is not their son, which means he has no idea who he really is, his name, where his blood relatives are, or the reason he was abandoned.
I'd like to know who I am, my birthday, how old I am. But more importantly, is the real Fronczak baby still alive? Is it out there? And if it is, can we find it? Can we actually reunite it with my mom and dad?
Since our stories about his unusual case aired last month, ideas and suggestions have poured in from the public to the webpage devoted to his mystery. A second, more extensive DNA test was conducted, but the results are not yet complete. And the case came to the attention of Ancestry.com, an online DNA and genealogy site with a gigantic database.
With billions of records and millions of family trees.
Experts there agreed to administer a third test.
It's a beta test that checks for 700,000 markers, and I had to felt like a gallon, but it was just a vial of DNA spit.
Ancestry.com has told Paul if he has any blood relatives left alive, they're going to find them.
What have they told you about how optimistic they are?
Oh, they're 100% into it. They're like these markers will get it down to at least a third or fourth cousin in my real family, and also finding my surname, the family name.
In the meantime, the I-Team, assisted by our affiliate in New York, has filled in some of the blanks about Scott McKinley, the boy abandoned in Newark. On the day he was left in a stroller on a sidewalk, someone called Newark police with a tip about the baby. The variety store where he was left thrived for many years, but went out of business in the 70s. We tracked down the nurse who was photographed with Scott in a snapshot that was seen all over the country, but she died 6 years ago. The caseworker in charge of Scott's time in the foster system is now in her 80s and doesn't remember him. And the city of Newark, which presumably has records which could shed light on the mystery, has been unable, but mostly unwilling, to dig into its files. But progress has been made, and chances are good the New Jersey part of the mystery is going to be solved.
So my bag's packed. I'm ready to go to Jersey. I mean, whatever it takes.
The Chicago mystery is tougher to crack. What became of the Fronczak baby and the kidnapper? But Paul is optimistic.
Hopefully someone's going to come forward, and the more light we shine on this case, the more we have a chance of finding something. I don't know why. I have this feeling that the Fronczak baby is still alive.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.